see if it works like it's supposed to. My OBS, oh my god, this is very behind, but it should work. Well, I guess then I just should say hello and welcome to the first KLM Industries livestream. Today, let me just prepare my PPE. Today we will be sharpening some bread knives. I got a full crate of knives. It's gonna be about 80, maybe. It looks a bit quite full, maybe it's 90. And we'll do just a bit of sharpening together. I'm thinking maybe like an hour or two, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It will take me much longer than an hour to get through this. I'm not that fast, but yeah, it should work. It's just sort of just set up here a little bit. Quite some time since I did this. I did a few streams many years ago on Twitch. I remember it was, I think it was over 2 years ago, but then I decided to start YouTube because it was just more fun for me to do YouTube stuff. Most of the stuff I did, I couldn't really fit into a Twitch live stream, and so YouTube was definitely the better option for me, and I'm, quite happy with how it went thus far. I think that's quite nice for like a very niche topics, but it's been quite fun over the years. Every time most of the stuff I don't like buy the stuff for YouTube, obviously. I just happen to make a video with whatever I'm buying. If I get a new laser engraver, for example, that was the biggest first niche that I got into outside of sharpening. I just bought the engraver and then thought I'm gonna make a video about the stuff I did to it. Like learning about the process on the first one, took me a bit to get into it and to get used to the software and experience it with the small scalp fan laser that I had. But all in all, it is quite fun. You can hear another loose knife handle. Tend to be quite often. Once I don't know the brand of the company where I sharpen them. These knives for they're very bad. Like the handles are awful. It's from the general concept of the knife handle to the execution of their handles. It's so bad. It's actually terrible. I have no idea why they still buy them. And I told them that because I have to repair a few of them every week, and I repair them obviously every week, but I don't know why they still continue using those kinds of knives. Like in the video where I showed how to rivet the knife handles. Some adjustments. Right here. Now I have set up my stream basically to stream on Twitch, but there are some kind of differences between the two in terms of the settings. So I have to make some adjustments, I think. On the bitrate, what does it say? That seems quite high. No, that's too much. bitrate crashed? No, it hasn't. Okay. It still says that my bitrate is wrong, but I set it higher. I don't know. Let's just continue. Ah, now it worked. Okay, good. Now it should look a bit better. At least I raised it quite a bit. I didn't know that YouTube would support such high bitrate, if I'm completely honest, but okay. Where was I? I was at the video that I made about the knife handles, exactly. Where I showed you how to rivet the knife handles. And a lot of people said that I should rather, make a new one, or that it looked bad, and I absolutely 100% agree. It looks terrible. Every time I do it, it looks awful. When I did it the first time, he came up to me, and like the guy that works at the company that is kind of like I don't know. We call it like house technician. In Austria, the kinds of people. So basically, they are employed by the company, and they are just housekeepers for all their different sites everywhere where they work. And he obviously tasked me with the knives because he wanted to get another company to do the knife sharpening. So I basically got the job, and then a lot of the knife handles obviously were broken, and he started to repair it with just a screw, like an actual just a hex head screw that he put through the knife. Like if you look at the knife handle, and maybe I can find it, it's still floating around. He would just drill out the rivets and actually just hammer a hex head through into it and put a nut on the other side and then just tighten it. And that was the way that it repaired. So you kind of know the standard. And then he asked me if I could fix the knife handles for him, because I was making knives from scratch, and I chose like a screw rivet for the job, and I bought some and I tried it out, and it would have been more expensive because the screw rivets they were made out of brass, and they are actually quite expensive. But it looked like kinda decent, and it was a more permanent fix. But he didn't want it, so he ordered some of the copper rivets and just gave them to me and said, "Here you go, just fix it with those." Yeah, that's how I ended up fixing all the knife handles like this with the copper rivets. And in the video you could see it looks awful, and there isn't really a way to do this better, because if you look at it, I just remember Alex Steele did a video like this many years ago, where he started riveting knife handles, and basically what he was doing was he used like a jeweler's tool, which is basically like a pneumatic or electric hammer that would just hammer down the rivet, and that way you had much more control over how your rivets look, because obviously if you do it properly, you want it to look nice. There are some like ready tools where you can just screw it together and flatten the rivets that way, how you would use it on on a gun, for example. If you were to use steel rivets, you can't just do it willy-nilly with a hammer like I did. But it would just destroy the wood. Like every other way I tried doing it, even like I'm drilling out so much, much more than the actual rivet would fill. But I just need it because all the knife handles are breaking. There's so little meat on these wooden knife handles that you just have to be so careful. And if they completely split, like basically the knife is ruined. And then someone said, okay, you should make a new knife handle, but that's just too expensive. Like if I charge what I charge per hour to make a knife handle, it's just too expensive. You can't. I did a few for customers, but if you wanna like sustain it as a business, fixing knife handles, you cannot charge just $50 for it unless you have like a specific type of knife you are very familiar with and you are set up for, and you can do it super quickly. But I can't make a custom knife handle for especially with the construction that this is. I can show it to you later how these knives are constructed. It's just completely stupid. I just can't do this for 50 bucks, and I need to charge more, and then, you know, it's worth more than the knife actually cost, and then it obviously they are a business, and it doesn't make sense. Like for private owners, I know I get it when someone wants me to make a new knife handle, like I charge what I charge, it's just what it is. And even with sharpening, sometimes I get like very cheap scissors where this thing itself is just way more expensive than way cheaper than, you know, what I charge for it. But for like a private person, it makes sense because you just like it, you had it gifted, it was a gift from your parents or something you just inherited, and then you just want to keep using it, or you just don't want to produce waste. And I'm actually very glad that a lot of people don't see, like private people don't see it with this kind of business sense where, okay, as soon as sharpening is more expensive than buying a new one, so I'm just gonna buy a new one because then I would have way less work, obviously. But for business, they just won't do it. Like a business has to look over their profit, and it is what it is. Unfortunately, producers, I don't know, I don't actually know how they dispose of them, because they have to have a ton of, not a ton, it's not that many, because I also have gotten better at least not destroying the handles. I rarely ever have some losses when I fix them, so it's okay in this regard, but still, doesn't make sense. So yeah, when people say you should just make a new handle, it looks terrible, you can't do that when I work for a company. Like a company will look after their profits, and if it's cheaper to buy a new blade than, you know, get a new handle made, then it is what it is. And also the construction is terrible. This actually looks weird. I think I've never seen this knife like from this company. This, if you look at the handle, it is quite nicely made. It's like stacked, and it has this like brass inlay on both sides with a number on it. Looks quite cool, I think, but I think that's just someone's private knife that he put into the, you know, company into the pile, so the company pays for it. But I'm not gonna judge if someone wants to sharpen their knives on company money, but I don't care. Is it loose? Loose? Oh, it is actually loose. Let's have a closer look at this handle. I think it's quite interesting. This one is made. So it's basically, it's stacks of wood. It has this backing here. Actually, for like a wireless stream, because the way I'm doing this currently is I have my phone with streaming over Wi-Fi to my PC. It actually looks quite nice in the preview, the video quality. And this is loose. I think you can hear it. Don't know if my NVIDIA edits this out, but I have no idea how I could tighten this, because this is not riveted. I think they just glued it together and it's not loose. Well, I guess whoever owns this knife just has to live with it. Well, let's just get a new stack out. Let's first get a new stack out. But in general, this kind of sharpening it's very nice. I've been working with the company for like 2 years now, and they are very cool. They are very easy to talk to. Like the guy that's basically the person I work with mostly at the company is very chill, and it's just nice if you have someone where you can just call them and, you know, talk to them. Like they talk to me if they want something specially made. They know he can always ask me, and if I have like some with university, if I'm studying, if I have some exams up and I don't have time to do something, like I can always talk with him and tell him, maybe get it done next week. You can just plan it, and they're very chill over there, which is nice. Actually, the most specialized work that I ever had was he basically gave me a cutting boards. They got very thick plastic cutting boards, and obviously after some time the surface is very, very destroyed. Oh no, it's focusing on the knife. The surface is destroyed, and he asked me if I could grind this down, but I think that was the whole time I was doing like my sharpening business. It was the only time I could not do a job, because these plastic cutting boards, they were so thick, like there was no way you could just grind it on like a belt sander. It has just no way to do it. But there was no way to do this on a belt sander, so what I tried was on my parents' neighbor. He's a carpenter and he owns a carpentry business, and he has a big like electric plane. And I went up to him and I asked him if he could work down the cutting board on his electric plane, but it didn't really work, because it did work after some setting, after some dialing it with the settings, but the issue was that because he's also a business, he is collecting the sawdust from the electric plane, and he's selling it basically for companies. They just press it into pellets and then burn it, and because of that he's not allowed to, obviously when you do that and when they sell this for firewood, you can't have any chemicals in it, so he's not allowed to put plastic or like painted wood or lacquered wood into his planer, and that way I just couldn't work with him. He couldn't put it into in his machine because the suction system of the electric plane, it didn't work for the plastic. Oh, it did work. It did work, but he wasn't allowed to use it because then it would just suck all the sawdust of not the sawdust, the particles from the plastic cutting boards into the machine and then into his into its suction bag, which he was trying to sell. So he just couldn't use it, and so I couldn't rework the cutting boards for the company, and that was it was the only job ever that I couldn't fulfill. But basically everything else, like reworking knife handles, having weird tools like machinery tools, he has some very cool. Unfortunately I can't show it to you because I had to return them. Oh, bumped my thing here. They have some really cool kind of blender. Like, you know this blender where the one you work with your hands, where it's just this plastic cup with the blade in it, and you pull the string to kind of dice onions, for example. I think that's what most people use it to dice onions, so you don't get the onion smell everywhere. And they have basically the same tool, but on a ton of steroids, because the blades are huge. It's like a huge aluminum plate with some stainless steel blades screwed into the aluminum plate, and it's gigantic. And these are the kinds of like special machinery tools. Just you don't see that they're super expensive. The whole thing costs like 500 euros if you were to buy it new. So I'm reworking those quite often for them. And this is just a thing where it pays off if you have a lot of experience sharpening, and you can work out how a particular thing is made. Because with a lot of machine tools, it's just understanding how they are manufactured. And a lot of people who call me for like garden tools, for example, or something, usually they say, I got a knife, a scissor, whatever. And then they just ask, like, is it possible to do this? Is it possible to do that? And that's where just the experience pays off, because basically anything that is sharp can be resharpened. And you just have to know how it's made. You have to think about how they made it in their factory. And from that, you just can extrapolate, how can I sharpen it? Now it helps if you got a lot of tools, like that's why I got a full crate out of many different shapes sharpeners. I love the diamond sharpeners for this kind of stuff because they are super small, like the small DMT sharpeners I got. They are tiny, they are extremely thin, and they're just the perfect tool for like all the fiddly stuff. A lot of garden tools. For a lot of garden tools, my main issue is that you can't really disassemble them properly because they are very badly made. And I even had one made by Keacha, like a German company, which is like, it's a really expensive company. All of their stuff is very expensive and like supposed to be good. But I worked on one of those, it was like a pressure washer. And something inside it broke. It was leaking and I wanted to fix it. And I just took all the screws out and I noticed all the screws on this like very expensive $300-400 pressure washer made by Kecha they were plastic screws. So they just use, I don't know what it was, ABS plastic screws, which were just strong enough to where you can, hammer them in the factory, and then you just can't take it apart. You cannot take the stuff apart anymore because all the plastic screws, they just strip off. It was unfortunately like from my grandparents, an old thing they gave my parents. So it wasn't like a customer tool I ruined, but that's why I don't like to disassemble a lot of garden tools, because if they're badly made like this, you're just breaking it. And if it was already broken, and it's like from your family, like whatever. But if just a customer brings you his tool and you can't assemble it anymore because it's just broken, and now like the thing I had to do with the pressure washer, I basically would have had to drill all the screws out of the plastic. So it was a plastic screw screwed into plastic. So good luck getting that out. And then, yeah, you basically need to buy some screws on your own and figure out how to put it back together. And I just don't want to do it with customer tools. And so for that, I very much enjoy the small diamond sharpeners, because you can sharpen most tools while they are like fully assembled, for example. That's a huge benefit. And for this was like, even though it looks slow, like you would think if you were to sharpen a crate out of 80-90 knives, you want to use a machine. But like if I'm not making a live stream right now, then I'm going a bit more slowly on everything. It's super quick, especially once you have, like the first time I sharpened like a crate of this, it was a lot worse because I had to do the initial grind because they were completely destroyed. The other company where they sent the bread knives to, I think if I will pick out an older one from the crate and show it to you later. They sharpened all the bread knives by putting it on a belt sander and then just sharpening it from the backside, and so all the serrations were completely destroyed. It was awful, and it took such a long time to fix it, all of the knives, and get like proper serrations back into them. But now that they are, and they are looking after them quite well. They are putting it in the dishwasher, all those knives, because they are, it's a company, and you have, because of like hygiene rules, you have to put your knives in the dishwasher to just disinfect them. And for that reason, sadly, I can't really, like, they will get dull, and especially the handles, they just will deteriorate after some time, because the dishwasher, the agents, the bleaching agents will just destroy the wood after some time. But the knives in the dishwasher, they just get like equally dull, and they are very easy to resharpen. And since they don't tend to like break the knives very much, it's actually quite fast to do this with the DMT sharpeners. Like if you do a proper run, so if I do a proper run, just in between, just going for it, it's very, very easy. Very quick. Just like that, you earn a bit of money. Mhm. What, what do we have in store too? The last video, the Ruby making video. I don't know how many of you saw that, um, but it was one of the. I think it's one of the coolest things I've ever done on this channel, especially and just in general as like kind of science experience stuff. Um, Making the Rubies was so cool. I basically, I saw the way I got to it, the way I got to making it was by watching a Styropyra, which I really like. He's such a crazy person, and I really like his like wacky experiments that the last time. Also the laser stuff. That's kind of how I got into lasers and I got into learning how they work because of Styropyra. And when I saw his microwave video where he made the rubies, it was just I saw it and I thought I have to do it. It's like the coolest thing ever. That you can make like precious stones. Obviously, they're not precious if I'm making them, but in general, just to make precious stones by yourself in like your workshop, like that's the coolest thing ever. And I didn't do it for quite a long time. I just thought about it because I had to buy the chemicals, and it was like normally I buy the like if I buy borax or when I bought ferric chloride for knife making and for making Damascus, I bought it of like a local company that are it's like a chemical supplier here, and but like most chemical suppliers, they are crazy expensive. And for the borax, actually, it was not that bad, but all the other stuff like the aluminum oxide powder and the chromium oxide, even though it's just a sharpening agent, basically, it's like not a sharpening powder, but it's a polishing powder for like different kind of metals, for precious metals and for stone. It was crazy expensive there, so I just looked at the company where normally and I thought, oh my god, that's expensive. I'm just gonna hold off to it. But after I played a bit with my laser, like I got the new X-Tool one and I got the 10-watt laser and I kind of figured all the stuff out. I thought I'm gonna do it now, and I just thought of looked around online to buy where to buy the powder, and I saw that it's actually rather cheap. Like some stores wouldn't sell it. I got one which is like a dental supply, which had very good prices on it, but they would only sell to dentists for whatever reason. And so I couldn't buy it off of them, obviously, because I'm not a dentist. And I think they wanted like a certificate. I was thinking about just coming up with a name, because I don't think there's like a legal reason why you cannot sell the oxide powders to not dentists. So I was thinking about just pretending to be one. But I looked around and I found some other shops that sold the other stuff, and that it was not that expensive then. And then I started making it in the laser. And when I did it the first time, I just blasted it with the laser, and I saw that it was this like super bright red ruby. It was just over. However, I am kind of sad that it didn't work as well as I would have hoped for in the laser, because in the laser engraver, it definitely they were the purest rubies that I ever made. I actually have the bag here. I actually have the baggie here. Smaller ones I made, and if you look at them, focus, you can you see those the very very bright red ones. Those are the ones I made in the laser engraver, and they are incredibly pure and they fluoresce so crazy. I obviously while making it, I made a lot of, because the laser ones are so brittle, I made a lot of ruby dust basically, or they just crumbled and fell onto the floor, and I was shining a black light just on my floor, and I just got hit with those little tiny spots of bright red rubies, and it was so good, but I couldn't figure out how to make them larger. It was just not possible. because in the Styropyro video he did manage to make very large rubies, but his laser was also completely idiotic. What he did, it was so powerful. Was it, if I remember, was it 150 or was it 200 watts? It was crazy powerful and just a huge diode. There was just no way I could get like a laser beam this big on my engraver. Sadly. So I went and did the route with my welder. But then on the welder, it took me a bit of playing around because obviously, you know, it's a completely different process. And I had to buy another set of tools. I had to buy the graphite crucibles to strike the arc. And like the graphite part worked very well. I was surprised how resilient this graphite stuff is. But then I got contaminants. Like if you remember in the back, I just showed you the ones that were like very black. They had so many contaminants in it when I tried it to do with the carbon arc, like it was in the video. Actually, I can't remember the channel anymore, how it's called. But it's just, if you look onto YouTube Ruby making, it's got millions of views. It's a huge video, and he did it with the carbon arc, and his looked quite a bit better, at least on camera. You know, sometimes camera is a bit deceiving with colors, but it did look way better on his side. Unfortunately, I couldn't really reproduce it. I got very, very bad porosity on mine, and just a lot of contamination. So unfortunately, I had to do another thing, and I ended up using my TIG welder, which was, in terms of purity, it was a huge improvement. They were never ever as pure as the ones I did on the laser, because that was like, I think if I were to get those in the quality like they come out of the laser, in like a larger form factor, they could be like slightly translucent, like how I actually want them to be, but I just couldn't. But I did them on the TIG welder, and they were a lot better. They were actually like a very nice pink. They were fluorescing much better. Only downside to the TIG welder is obviously cost. Like I did one run. I did a preparation run before the video, so I could, because it was more expensive, I wanted to like plan around much more like the way I was doing it, because it costs a lot more. I didn't want to waste the argon, because that is very expensive. We don't have like the larger argon bottles. We have the smaller single-use ones, and they are just crazy expensive to buy every time. And so I did some like calculated test runs before the video, and then I made the actual video. And I went almost through an entire bottle of argon, which is like, I don't know, $40. And so that way it's just crazy expensive. Sadly, you can use less. If I were to do it again, I would be more efficient, because now I got the powder mixture done. That was also very surprising. In the Ruby video, I said I don't have like the small drug dealer scale, and I don't have those, so I tried to make the mixture with just volumetric, which is very hard to do because you need the small funnel. I got a very tiny funnel where you can like measure out 0.5 millimeter sizes, but with the powder it's just way too hard to do, because the powder has to be compressed down, and you just can't compress it so much that you know your measurement becomes inaccurate. And so I just kind of eyeballed it by the color, and in a lot of the other YouTube videos, the color of the Ruby mixer was just very, very dark green. But for me, it was just it was very bright. And so I always added some more chromium powder to the mix to make it darker, but that actually, you know, led me down a wrong path, because the rubies were a lot darker than I was hoping them to be. And in actuality, I was always using too much chromium powder. I have no idea how they did it in their video. It must have something to do with like the purity of the base material or something, because the color was so drastically different. Get a new knife protector for those. The color was drastically different from like all the YouTube videos to mine, but for me at least, it was the best option. I did it in a video. In real life, the powder was just very, very faintly green. It was basically, you basically could hardly tell that there were any impurities in it. Even though the chromium oxide is just is such a potent pigment. It's extremely dark green, and if you get it like while mixing the powder, the worst thing that can happen, if you get it on your clothes, I don't know if you can actually wash it out of your clothes, that would be a disaster. And just either getting the powders out of your fingers, because it's grinding, is because it's an abrasive, it just basically goes into your skin almost, because it's so abrasive, it grinds itself in and it just doesn't come out, because, you know, obviously the tiny particles are very sharp. And even though it's such a potent pigment, my mixture was hardly green, it was mostly white, and that's when I got the very best rubies. That were the last one I showed in the video, and they were super bright pink. I struck the arc. I basically had this almost white powder in front of me, and I struck the arc with the TIG welder, and it just came out after it was cooling down. Obviously, it just came out as a pink, and that was the best thing about this whole experiment. Just making something completely new out of like just a few powders that you got for 10-15 bucks off of the internet, and you basically got an infinite supply. That's the worst thing, because the TIG welding is so expensive, but the actual base material is extremely cheap. Like just the powder is, what does the powder in total, it was including shipping, which was basically as expensive as the powder itself. I paid 40 to 45 bucks for enough to make gigantic rubies. I got 250 grams of aluminum oxide, and yeah, that will just last me forever. But the argon on the TIG welder is just way too expensive to do this more often. Sadly. This thing outside. No. All my windows are closed. I am safe. Such great summer weather out here, but it's actually the perfect day to do some sharpening. I'm just gonna. I hope it's not too loud on camera if I open a window, because I would really like to open a window right now, because it's crazy hot in my apartment. Just have to see on the microphone level if it comes up, but whatever. I'm just gonna. As you can see, is this also like? Let me show you the knife handles again. The way they are constructed, and the reason why I'm not making new ones. So if you look at them, these are both two new ones. I have to work with the light a bit, because I only got overhead lighting right now. And they look quite nice when they're new, and this one is solid. You know, they are there are 3 rivets. They are like the kind of rivets that are just pressed together. So one is a hollow tube, and the other one has a cylinder, and the cylinder is pressed into the hollow tube, and the friction between them, because there's like an interference fit, makes the knife handle hold together. But after a bit of time in the dishwasher, they get loose, and they kind of start popping out. You can see that faintly in the camera, and you can hear it rattle. You can just hear it rattle, and because of that, I have to drill them out and put new ones in. But the way they are constructed is, if you look at the top, you can see the tang, and the tang is not going all the way through. And if you look at the bottom, there is no tang. So how is this constructed? Well, the way they made this knife handle is they took it like this and they just cut the outside shape out of a piece of wood. Then they chamfered it and then they probably put it in a vise and came down on it with a circular saw. And because they came down on it with a circular saw, they just have a cutout that goes from on the top here to like pretty much to here, if you can see my finger here. So it's a circular saw blade that goes from here on the back to here. And that leaves it with a tiny amount of meat on the whole bottom. Because they haven't cut all the way through and made it just like a half for tang, basically. No, they left a tiny sliver of wood on the bottom, which just cracks so easily. And you can see if I had better lighting, if it wasn't so incredibly hot, you could see that it's already starting to crack here because the construction is just idiotic of this knife handle. And I don't know why they keep buying them. When I told them that it's stupid. I don't even know if they're like a company. Like I get that if you're a company that sells food to customers, that you have to follow certain hygienic rules. And so I get that you would want to put them in a dishwasher every day to disinfect them and clean them. They have this like kind of if you ever worked like in a company, you know the dishwashers are like different from yours at home because they just run like for 5 minutes and they have different solvents in them. They have, I think, like they have lye in them to disinfect the thing, which is the reason why the handles don't really bleach. Because your dishwasher at home, if you use that one, you put in your dishwasher tablets or your powder. If you watch Technology Connections, and you know that powder is actually way superior. If you do that, you would know that, and you read the back, you can see that most of them have bleach in them to get the discoloration out. Oh, what's up with my video? Coming back. Audio still should work. Oh, someone called me. No, I don't want to sign in. Does it work? Ah, it's back. Sorry for the inconvenience. Is it back? Yeah, it's back. And so your dishwasher at home will have bleach in the tablets, and they will just slowly bleach out your wooden handles. And their company dishwashers, they don't have that. They don't use bleach. They use lye to disinfect it. So at least it won't destroy the wood in this regard. But it will still like kind of swell up the wood and it will blow out all the rivets. And even my copper ones after a while will blow out. But the problem is, why don't they just buy knives with plastic handles? I don't get it. They even have some. They have like, they have like the headquarters. That's where I go to, and they have one shop there. It's like a bakery, and this one shop has most of the. They have like a station there where they make a lot more elaborate foods than just a bakery, and they use plastic knives there. But they don't use plastic knives for like their entire company, where they send them all across the country. And so that's why all the knife handles are breaking and they have to repair them. And I don't get, I mean, I get some money for fixing it, obviously. So for me, it's fine, but it's not that much. And yeah, I would rather just get them a nicer looking product than, earn a few bucks extra than having all the knives just have crappy looking damaged handles. But it's just the way it is, I guess. Newer ones have very, very soft steel. The newer kind of bread knife. Yeah, that looks good. I can see. I'm kind of older. Yeah, that's an older knife. If you look at how the knife is ground, obviously it's a bread knife. It has the serration in front. Yeah, you know that. But if you look at the back, can you see this reflection here? How the reflection changes when I get up to these serrations. This is from the old company that did the sharpening, and they just took it to a belt sander. They took the whole thing to a belt sander and were just grinding it from the back. And because they did that, all the serrations are gone. If you look at it, the serrations are very, very shallow. They used to be much deeper, but they just ground away all the serrations. I have no idea why. Yeah, I mean, you can't even do that a lot of times. I have no idea why you would do that. I mean, it's obviously a lot faster, but they were not charging less than I did, and I'm very certain they were much quicker doing it this way. So yeah, that's kind of a bit sketchy, but and that's the reason why I got a job now, right? So I kind of have to thank them for it. If I'm doing a quick pass here, as you can see, I'm just working through that. After some time, you just build up muscle memory basically, and then it's very easy to do this very quickly. This is the can from the Lansky sharpener kit. Camera is doing some funky stuff sometimes with exposure. I can't open the curtains right now to let some light in. Second pulse up here. My NVIDIA broadcast thing is doing a crazy job, like putting out the background noise. I'm seeing. I think I have to adjust it, because if I'm not talking actively, you just can't hear anything. I'm seeing it right now. So that must sound a bit stupid. Like the whole sound setup like currently is a bit weird. So I mean, if it sounds awful, I hope someone would have already told me. So it like can't be that bad. But it is a bit funky because I just got my like snowball mic up at my counter here, and I'm just basically using it as a like general room mic to get stuff going. It's very difficult to do real live streams. I know why a lot of people just stream off of their desk. If you ever look like see a streamer in like his workshop, and like sometimes there's an issue with the camera, with the audio, it's not great. Don't think it's their fault, because it's extremely difficult to get sound working. Like even on a video setting, when I do my videos, it's easier when I can stay behind my phone, like behind the camera, because the microphones from the phone are like made to work this way. So you stand behind it and you film something and you talk into it, and the sound is quite nice. But doing like open workshop type content while doing it live is extremely difficult in terms of a setup. Like sound setup, the video thing is easy, but for some reason audio is still something that is not really solved. I mean, it is solved if you spend a lot of money on like a lav mic. I think that would be the shot for me, but I kind of want to get in a shop audience if I do this a bit more often, like this kind of shop streams, and I would like to have a shop vibe going on, so to speak. But yeah, it's just very hard to do that with the microphone, because the Yeti, the snowball mic I got, is so incredibly sensitive. It is actually insane. If I put it on my desk, if I wouldn't have this NVIDIA broadcast thing on, which makes the stuff probably sound a bit like harsh, like the cutoff point sound a bit harsh probably, I could have it on one side of my desk my desk is 2 meters long, I could have it on one side of my desk and then slightly tap with my finger on the other side of the desk and you would hear it. It is so incredibly sensitive. And that's why I kind of have to resort to the NVIDIA software to fix my audio a bit. But I think maybe it's a dial. They had like a big update and the whole NVIDIA broadcast thing is very different right now. So I think I kind of have to get used to it. How to dial in all the settings, because right now I think it's a bit too much. They have like they did put in different settings for like a noise reduction or echo reduction. So that was not an option before I did a big update. So maybe this could help, but I have to tweak some settings to get this to be a bit better. Now, while it is quite good, obviously I did a small sound test beforehand, and like the noise reduction was excellent if you spend a lot of money on a expensive NVIDIA GPU. I would kind of hope it will be good, but it is excellent, but it is also not ideal in like dialing in and getting to know it. It will remove noises. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can't say that it's their fault because it says remove background noise, so it's removing everything obviously beside my speech, but I only want to remove like a certain kind of background noise, like the sharpening noise. I would like to have it. If it was quietly in there, I don't think it would be a problem for you guys. But if I just turn off the whole NVIDIA broadcast thing, you're gonna hear, if I take a sip out of my can here, you can hear me swallowing the liquid, which just sounds so disgusting. Like I couldn't have that. It just sounds disgusting. So I kind of have to reset. Keep it the way it is right now until like either I pick up a live mic. I have like a cable, a wired live mic, but it's just like a $10 Chinese thing of Amazon, and it is very, very bad. And I was looking around for like a Rode, the wireless mics, but I don't really like the sound of those. A lot of YouTubers use them, but I think they sound very weird, and a lot of the better sounding solutions are just crazy expensive for the wireless. So I'm thinking maybe I get like a better wired one. Like I think Sennheiser still has some. On Amazon they still have some wired live mics. Maybe I can use one of those just to get a bit of sound going, like a better sound. But then the live mics also have like very crazy noise reduction, so I guess the shop ambience still wouldn't be there. At some point we'll figure it out. But I'm at least happy with the camera setup. Even though it's doing some funky exposure things sometimes. You just see it I'm looking on my monitor on the preview, and it's getting super bright sometimes. The darkening again. No idea why it's doing that. But okay, I guess. Let's kick it. While the landscape, I really like the landscape kit. They are really built to, like, they are exactly how you would imagine them to be at this price point. And like not a bit more. Like the stones work very good, but everything else is like, and the clamp, obviously, I mean, it also works. I've been using it for years now and it's still good, but that's kind of it. This indeed looks. I think I've gotten quite far. I got 14, 15 knives done in about an hour. That's quite nice. Yeah. Never like actually like stop the time and just calculated how fast I am, which I actually should do, because it's for a company. If you calculate how much you charge someone, you should really know exactly how long you take for something. But I've not been in a position where it was that important for me to know the exact figure. But it's actually kind of funny to have like a live stream and then a VOD afterwards to kind of check how fast I actually am while sharpening. But I've gotten pretty far. This is basically how fast you can reasonably sharpen one. Just in one go, going through. I'm not even like setting off and putting on in the next serration. I'm just applying pressure and then jumping from one serration into the next one. You would think you would kind of round off the tips, but not really. Not really too bad. This one is loose again. See it rattling around. And for these ones, I actually do have a homemade tool, which I could show you. I never showed this in a video because I didn't really think it was that interesting. Maybe someone wants to know. At some point, I got myself a little clamp right here, and I cut the base off. That was some very loud thunder outside. I cut the base off, and then I welded like a small piece of steel on the top here. And how I can use that is if I got a knife where the rivets are kind of loose. Right here, this one rattles a bit. Even though I got 2 copper rivets in, they kind of loosened because the wood is deteriorated even further because of the dishwasher. I can put those in, as you can see, and then I can just tighten it. Tighten it by hand a lot, and that way I can kind of press down the rivets and get it going again, because I don't have like an anvil here where I could just hammer the rivet down, because it makes too much noise in my apartment. But this one is a silent solution. Let's sit down, and basically it makes like a small divot. It makes a small indent in the copper, presses the copper down, and now it's completely tight again. That was a very easy fix. I'll take this pass again, and then I think now that I'm starting to get a bit hungry and I need to buy some stuff. I think after a few nights I'm gonna end the stream then, but it was, and I have to make sure that everything, went well. I did as I said, I did a little like test recording beforehand, but I don't really know how it turned out at the end, so I'm doing this as a 1-hour test stream to check the endurance of everything, how my phone holds up, how the battery holds up, and how the general setup just worked. Because I do wanna, if I'm doing stuff like this where it's very monotone, it's very boring to do this alone. I usually put up a show, or I don't really watch shows, I watch YouTube videos, to be honest. I listen to some music, but if I could do this on a live stream, that would be a lot more enjoyable. And I actually kind of want to do some live streams in my larger shop if I were to do knife making. It's quite a long time since we did some forging, because we didn't have like someone who needed a knife, and we had quite a lot of other stuff to do. Oh no, it's loose again. Oh, we got loose again. The second rivet. Oh, press down the wood a tiny little bit, but I'll just scratch it off. Now the rivet is tight again. Well, that was it then. I'm gonna review the stream now and review the streamboard and see how this whole setup like kind of worked, how the sound worked. And then I can do some adjustments, maybe adjust the NVIDIA broadcast software later, because as I said, I kind of want to have this like a shop sound, and I don't know if the Yeti Snowball mic is like the perfect solution, but it's the one I have, so it's the one that will have to work. But yeah, maybe put it into the thing. It also has a back mic, so I could get some ambience there, but I don't know. Well, that was it for the stream then. Thank you for everyone who like tuned in between, and for everyone who kind of watched the VOD afterwards. Actually, know how many people watch stream VODs on YouTube or something like this, but if you do, then I very much appreciate it, especially if you got to the end, because, you know, it's very chill content. It's something where just kind of hang out. It's kind of like the streams that I watch too, that you just put on and have running in the background while you do something. That's kind of the vibe I'm going for this kind of stuff. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you liked it, then, and you learned something, consider giving the stream a like, and then I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.